You think you can just leave me here? I will never forgive you for this. Now move!
Have you ever had someone stand 3 feet away and call you a failure while having no idea what you were actually worth? Stay with me. This one changes everything you think you know. It was one of those flat, white-hot Texas mornings where the air shimmers over concrete before 9. Missouri City sits quiet most days, sprinklers ticking on timers. 16 years on that same street. The same gray F-150 to job sites for a decade. A truck his wife rolled her eyes at every time they pulled into her sister's driveway. His father used to say a man who has to announce what he is worth has already lost the argument. So Jamal never announced a thing. The front door hit the frame hard enough to rattle the kitchen window. Then the suitcase hit the driveway with a crack like a gunshot.
You are dragging this whole family down, Jamal. I deserve a real man.
He knelt on the hot concrete and lifted the wedding photo from the pile. The frame was cracked at one corner. One open box held nothing but catalogs and expired coupons.
You will always be a zero. Nothing. That is all you have ever been.
He did not answer. He thought instead about 6 months of double shifts on a pipeline job, quietly clearing $27,000 in credit card debt she never knew she ran up.
16 years in the same house, the same truck, the same everything. Sharonda got a pool house. Renee goes to Cabo every year. And you gave me this.
He lifted a second photograph from a torn box. A newborn baby, red-faced and furious, cradled in arms that looked exactly like the ones holding the picture now. She measured love in square footage. She compared him to zip codes, never to character. And he had let her. For 16 years, he had let her.
You think I am poor because I chose to live quiet. You never once asked me why.
There is no why that explains this. There is no excuse for.
That is when the sound behind her became impossible to ignore. Not a delivery truck. Multiple engines, moving together, deliberately unhurried. 10 black SUVs came around the corner, moving in slow, tight formation. Sunlight sliding off 10 identical hoods, like they had been washed an hour ago, just for this. The hand she had raised to point him toward the street slowly came down. The anger drained out of her face, and something closer to fear moved in behind it.
What is this? Jamal, what is going on?
16 years of being underestimated teaches a man patience the way nothing else can. She had no idea yet how long he had been ready for this exact moment. The lead door opened. A man stepped out, dark suit, broad shoulders, the kind of tailoring that does not come off a department store rack. He walked right past Dahlia like she was a mailbox.
Mr. Thompson, sir. We are here to collect you, exactly as scheduled.
She took a step back, one bare foot sliding off the driveway onto the grass. Whatever power she had held on that lawn 60 seconds ago was gone entirely. Keith leaned in and said something meant for only the two of them. The backup files from the home office safe had been relocated 2 weeks earlier, exactly as instructed. Behind Keith, 3 more men moved up the driveway. They handled each item like it mattered. One man wiped the cracked wedding photo clean and set it into a padded case.
This is what, exactly?
Nothing about this morning was improvised. He had not scrambled to survive an ambush. He had simply let one unfold exactly on schedule, because he had built the schedule himself. Keith walked to the rear door and pulled it open. Inside, cream leather caught the morning light. The kind of interior Dahlia had only ever seen in the movies she watched on Sunday afternoons. She stepped forward. One trembling hand reached out. The math was already arranging itself behind her eyes. This was not a reaction. This was a plan.
Jamal, am sorry. I did not know.
The problem was never what you did not know. It is how you treated me while you believed I had nothing.
She opened her mouth to answer and then closed it again. There was no version of that sentence that would have helped her, and some part of her already knew it. He stepped into the SUV, one work boot on the running board, one calloused hand on the doorframe. He turned back once. Then the door shut with a soft, solid click. Through the side mirrors, she grew smaller. Barefoot, alone in the middle of the driveway, the neighbors still holding up their phones like the show was not over yet. Keith handed him a tablet in the back seat. The screen showed a live boardroom feed from the 40th floor of the J.P. Morgan Chase Tower in downtown Houston.
You will want to see this before we reach downtown, sir.
On the wall behind 20 waiting board members, brushed steel letters read, Thompson Infrastructure Group, a $9 billion company he built from one rewiring job 17 years ago. Dahlia had heard the company name 100 times at charity dinners. She had simply never connected it to the man sitting across from her at the kitchen table every night. Brandon Ellery, a supplier contract rejected months ago for inconsistent financials. The same name Dahlia had been quietly seeing for 8 months. The personal and the professional merged into one.
There is something else you should know before the board call. It concerns Mrs. Thompson.
Brandon had known exactly whose wife he was seeing and had tried to use it, quietly angling for a foothold in a $9 billion pipeline through the one connection he thought nobody would trace. She had not just betrayed the marriage, she had unknowingly let a man with a documented pattern of financial dishonesty walk through the front door of a company and get turned away by its own office. The SUV pulled into the private garage beneath the tower. The phone was already buzzing. 3 calls from Gregory in under 10 minutes. The grapevine had already outrun him downtown. But the hardest conversation was still waiting. Not in a boardroom with quarterly reports for cover. At a kitchen table. The same kind of table where 16 years of marriage had been built.
We heard there was some excitement in Missouri City this morning.
Something like that. Something like that.
10 SUVs seems generous for a man who claims he does not like attention.
They were not for me. They were for anyone who needed to see the truth arrive on time.
The phone buzzed again. A text from the basketball coach about practice. A missed call from Gregory. The grapevine had outpaced the convoy by 20 minutes. Whatever came next, he told himself, he would meet it the way his father had taught him. Quietly. And with the full truth already in hand. That evening, Dahlia arrived at the high-rise condo. No makeup, no heels. A plain gray dress and old sandals. She looked smaller than he had ever seen her. She stood in the corridor. He stood in the doorway. The warm light of the condo behind him and the cold fluorescent of the hallway on her. 2 different worlds meeting at one threshold. She sat down without being asked, hands folded so tightly the knuckles went white. Behind her, through floor-to-ceiling windows, the Houston skyline began lighting up, indifferent to everything in that room.
I have been seeing Brandon for 8 months. I told myself your money was hidden or dirty, so it would hurt less to lie.
I have known for 7 months.
What?
Restaurants in Uptown mostly. Photographs and receipts confirmed it within weeks. I stayed quiet. I wanted to see who you would choose once you believed I had nothing.
How could you have known that long and said nothing?
Ian still uses the tablet I gave him. It mirrors the family messaging account. He saw a name that was not mine. Over and over. He understood what he was looking at. He did not say a word to either of us. Until tonight.
Her hands rose to cover her face. Whatever composure she had walked in with was gone. It is one thing to be caught. It is another to learn your own child carried the truth for months. Her phone buzzed on the table. The name Gregory lit the screen for the fourth time that day. She answered on speaker, hands shaking too badly to hold it any other way.
I pushed you toward this, Dahlia. My business has been underwater for over a year. I told myself I was looking out for you. I was not. I am sorry, baby girl.
She stared at the phone like it had spoken a language she did not recognize. The pressure she had felt at home had not been entirely her own. The voice she trusted most had been steering her toward a cliff. That is when the front door opened and Ian walked in. Tall for 15, still in the practice jersey, sweat dried at the hairline. He had no idea what he was walking into.
Dad? Mom? What did you do? Coach asked me if I was okay before practice started. It is already all over the group chats. I remember who stayed up till 2 in the morning helping me finish my history essay. 3 nights in a row. You always said you had a headache, or a meeting, or you would catch the next one.
It was not the affair that broke her. It was the sudden knowledge that her own son had been quietly keeping score, and the final number had not come out in her favor. Something in Jamal loosened for the first time all day. Not anger, not victory, a pride deeper than any contract. Watching a boy brave enough to say a true thing in a room full of people avoiding it. He was not angry anymore. He was simply tired and clear in the way you get once the worst of something has finally finished happening. He stood at the windows looking out at the Houston skyline at night, thinking about everything still waiting to unfold and deciding how to meet it. Whatever came next, he was going to meet it the way his father taught him. Not with volume and an audience, quietly, with the full truth already in hand. She walked alone down the corridor, one hand trailing the wall for balance. The woman who had commanded a driveway that morning, now barely filling a hallway. He sat alone at the table and placed the thin, scratched wedding band in the center. The ring caught a single point of light. Some endings do not arrive with shouting. They arrive with a quiet click. The next morning he stood on a smaller porch. His father's porch. The same railing. The same gold dawn. The ghost of a lesson that had finally proven itself true. A man's real worth is never announced. It is simply revealed on its own schedule to people who have earned the right to see it, and sometimes to people who very much have not. 3 years passed. Thompson Infrastructure Group expanded its solar and grid work into underserved neighborhoods across Houston. The company grew. The man stayed quiet. He still visited job sites in work boots and a hard hat. He still carried blueprints in calloused hands. The truck was newer now, but the posture was the same. At a charity gala in downtown Houston, 3 years after that driveway morning, he saw Dahlia across the room for the first time in nearly a year. Whatever else had happened, she had built something real from the wreckage. That mattered to him more than he expected. Satisfaction turned out to feel like watching someone build something true. He did not say a word. He nodded once toward the stage, the smallest gesture, and let it speak for itself. They shook hands once, briefly, not the handshake of two people rebuilding a marriage, the handshake of two people who had finally arrived at something honest, which is its own kind of peace.
I stopped propping up what was not worth it. The rest I kept building. It was never about you.
Not the handshake of a reunion, the handshake of two people who finally arrived at something honest between them. Peace does not always look the way you hoped it would. Looking out at the Houston skyline through the ballroom windows that night, Jamal thought about his father on a smaller porch, years before any of this happened. Patience is not waiting quietly for something good to happen to you. It is building something good quietly while nobody is watching and nobody thinks you will. The truest wealth was never the truck in the driveway or the house on the right street. It was never about being seen. It was what a person quietly keeps building long after anyone has stopped watching. Father and son stood at the windows side by side. The same stance, the same calm, the same quiet. Some inheritances never show up on a bank statement. This story reminds you that worth was never something a convoy of black SUVs could prove. And it is not something an empty driveway can take away either. The people closest to you will sometimes be the last to see what you have been building. That does not make the building any less real. It makes the reveal more honest. And sometimes the person who hurt you the most becomes the proof that your patience was not wasted, because even they found a way to build something true from the wreckage you left standing. First, never decide what a person is worth based on what they choose to show you. The quietest people in any room are often carrying the heaviest truth. Second, if someone treats you well only after learning what you have, they never valued you. They valued your resume. Know the difference before it costs you something you cannot get back. Third, the things you build in silence while nobody is watching are the only things that truly belong to you. Everything done for applause expires the moment the clapping stops. If this story made you feel something real today, take 5 seconds and hit subscribe. Not for me, for the next story that might land in your life exactly when you need it. Drop a comment and tell me which moment hit you the hardest. Was it the driveway? The sun in the doorway? The handshake at the gala? I read every single one. Share this with one person who has been quietly building something that nobody around them has bothered to notice yet. Let them know somebody sees it. Hit the bell so you never miss a story. New ones arrive every week, and each one is built for the kind of person who already understands that real worth is never loud. Thank you for staying until the end. That tells me more about you than any comment ever could. You are the reason these stories exist. Until next time, keep building quietly. The right people will notice, and the ones who do not were never meant to. No narration. 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 No narration.